Today I'm going to show you a great technique where you can make Christmas cards with your kids. It's called Embossing Resist and it's loads of fun. Let's get into it. So what I'm using is the Merry Christmas stamp by Darkroom Door. It includes lots of different words, which is fantastic for this technique. So I'm just using the joy word, and what I'm doing first is I'm going to just swipe over my white cardstock. Now what the cardstock is specialty stamping paper, and it's perfect for this technique. I'm just inking up the stamp using Distress embossing ink. This is one of my favourite embossing inks because it's so juicy. It really sticks well to the embossing powder. So I'm just stamping the word joy onto the white cardstock. Now I've got a little tray here. When I'm using clear embossing powder, I like to just use a tray, especially for Christmas cards. This makes embossing really quick and easy. So all we need to do here is just tip that into there, just like that, and just tap off any excess. Now because we used that little anti-static pad, we shouldn't have any little random bits of embossing powder sticking anywhere else onto the cardstock other than where the stamp was. But if you do get some little random bits, just get a little tiny paintbrush and just flick off any extra bits. So now I'm just going to heat emboss the ink or the embossing powder. And you'll just notice for this particular clear embossing, the embossing powder will just go nice and glossy. It's a bit hard to see it here right now. You might not be able to see that on screen because we're going clear onto a white cardstock. But usually when you just highlight it in the light, you'll notice that the embossing powder just goes nice and glossy. Okay, so if you are doing this with kids, I would probably suggest that the adult does the heat embossing. But now that we have our embossed stamp, this is where the kids can really let loose and have a lot of fun. So we've got our embossed image. I'm just going to set that aside. That's good for later. Okay, so we have our stamped embossed image. And now this is the technique where your kids can really let loose and have a lot of fun. Okay, so what I'm using now is an ink blending tool. And to use this technique, you need a non-stick craft sheet, which blends it really easily. So I'm using Barn Door ink. I'm just tapping the ink pad on there and then just coming in and sponging over the image. Now this is where the kids are going to love it because it will really bring the stamped image to life. 1 minute ago they couldn't see what was going on. Now you can see here as I'm sponging, you can see the stamped image. Now I'm using a couple of different colours. I'm using peeled paint and Barn Door. There's a few other different Christmassy colours in the Distress ink range, and obviously if you didn't want to go with a red and green colour scheme, there's blues, yellows, anything you like. So just sponge some ink onto here. And you'll notice that the Distress ink really blends really well. This is why I love using this ink for sponging. So here we go. And see how that image there has just popped right out from the background. Now, if you want to add a little bit more to this background, here's another little fun technique for the kids. We're just going to use a spritz and flick technique. Now this is just a bottle of water and just spritz a bit into your fingers and then flick that onto the background. And what that will do, that's going to react with the Distress ink. So I'm just going to heat that up a little bit. And what that will do, that will just stop the water in its tracks. And you can see how those water droplets have really reacted with the background. If those water droplets are too stark and you'd like to just tone them down a little bit, just grab your ink blending tool. No need to add any extra ink because there'll still be ink on the tool. And then that will just tone down those white watermarks. And it'll just keep your word nice and bright. Just rub over the word, that'll just get rid of any ink that might have actually stayed on the stamped image. And there we have our finished piece. So that's a fantastic technique for the kids to get involved. And then all you need to do now is just create your cards. All I've done here is used some white cardstock and I've distressed the edges around here with a paper distresser. After that, I've just wrapped some ribbon around and then added it to a white card with some foam adhesive. So if you want to make budget cards, this is fantastic because you can use lots of different things that you have in your stash already. If you don't want to use a white card base, you could also use a red card base with green matting, and then also a green card base with red matting. And another idea I have, if you wanted to give this a little bit of bling, I'm using Perfect Pearl Mist. This is a great way to add a bit of pizzazz to the card as well. You need to shake this up. You can hear it has a little metallic ball in there. That shakes up all of the metallic parts and gives it that pearlescent look. And just spritz your stamped image. Once that's dry, that will have a nice shimmer to the project. I hope you and your kids enjoy making these cards. Have a fantastic Christmas. Thanks for watching.